Greetings, everyone. Today, I'd like to talk about social media for kids. Now, I'm a fairly new father. I'm Gen X. I'm raising Gen A kids, which is kind of a unique situation. I skipped a couple of generations there. And I know a lot about social media because I was raised before it existed. I also know a lot about computers and dial up networking and things of that nature because I was there before it, during it, and I still here. So I still use these things. And so I'm extremely familiar with all of it. And when social media first became popular, the first one that I signed up for was MySpace because it had some really cool features that I definitely enjoyed. And soon afterwards was Facebook, which at that time was just a college only platform. And the one thing that I liked about them was the fact that they were intended to be a communication tool. They were a way of communicating with your family and friends. Didn't matter what city or where they were at. As long as they had access to a network, they had access to these social media platforms. And eventually I signed on with some other ones like LinkedIn and Instagram for various reasons. And what started off as a communications and image sharing platform eventually turned into something much bigger. And while there are a lot of benefits to these platforms, the problems that's associated with them far outweigh the benefits. And when social media became popular for everyone, including me, we all became hooked. It was a great way to communicate with family and friends, like I just said. Didn't matter if they were in another city or state or in another country, it just didn't matter. And it was so popular that even my cousins had social media accounts for their kids even before they can talk. I mean, they were babies and they already had their own social media accounts. That's where they posted all their pictures. And of course, we would all post all sorts of pictures and videos and texts, and we would comment on each other. And for me, I like to debate. And I like to use facts when I debate. Even when I'm wrong, I like to debate. And I tend to be a very blunt, honest, and straight to the point kind of guy. So as you might guess, and it didn't take long for people to take offense. You fast forward a couple of decades, and my involvement with social media, did it change? No. I was still deeply involved with social media, just with less family members that would talk to me now, and less friends. I wasn't even realizing a lot of the negative side effects of social media was happening to me. And just so you know, please look in the description because I've done my research on this subject, and all the links will be there in the description. So please click on them. And like I said, the only change that I did make was, since I just recently retired from the military, the Air Force's version of military police anyway, which is security forces. And so I knew all the negative side effects to social media. I seen it, I experienced it, but did I care? No, I didn't care. And then I met my wife. And then I had 3 children of my own. Now, my wife is a legal immigrant from the Dominican Republic. And her culture, they also have social media, of course. They're also involved with social media. But when it comes to their children, at least my wife's children, my wife's family's children anyway, they have a different take on it. So the thing about my wife's family, none of their kids have social media accounts. If they need to talk on social media, they use their parents' accounts. And they use it how it's supposed to be used, which is always intended to be a communication tool. It seems like they're very familiar with all the dangers that's involved with it. But if you ask them, they don't know it. But they seem to be pretty good at avoiding it because of how tightly controlled they are over their children. And current research, like I said, I've done my research. Current research suggests multiple issues with social media for children, such as mental health issues, depression, anxiety, online bullying, and one of the worst of them all, predators. And I've seen things like this lead to suicide and murder. So this is something I definitely don't want for my children. I don't even want it for anybody else's children. So my wife and we came up with a couple of steps in order to keep our children from experiencing some of these negative side effects to social media. And the first step that our children is going to, not experience really, is we're going to keep them off technology altogether, except for educational reasons, of course. Technology has a lot of great uses. Heck, I'm using it to create this video right now. But it also has a lot of negative aspects, especially when it comes to kids. So the negative aspects far outweigh the benefits. Children that use technology too much, they develop all sorts of mental health issues, such as dependency and addiction. It is common for me to go to a grocery store and see a parent with their child and they're looking at some sort of video on a tablet or their parent's phone instead of interacting with their parents and learning about what's going on around them. I would much rather interact with my children in the store while shopping than concentrate solely on shopping, if you know what I mean. Because you see, I became a father for their laughter and to help them grow into beautiful adults, not to continue a peaceful existence as a lonely adult. My children, they choose to color and play outside. They read books and they create their own stories instead of asking to watch TV or play games on a tablet. We do let them watch TV, but it's generally only 1 to 2 hours a week. It's not very much at all. And if they use our phone, tablet, or computer, it's strictly for educational purposes. As a matter of fact, most of the TV shows that we do let them watch, the 1 to 2 hours a week, is educational shows. And the second step is something that is very quickly approaching now that my oldest daughter is 7 years old. And she is already familiar with computers, tablets, and smartphones because of us and also because of the school that she went to. And so she already knows what a bully is. And she already knows how to deal with bullies if she ever encounters one. But she doesn't quite know how to deal with online bullying or predators, at least not yet. So we need to educate her on those things. See, I want my kids to enjoy being a kid for as long as possible. So in order to do that, I need to educate them on this, because I would hate for them to be watching a kiddie show at some point in time, and then all of a sudden a pop-up happens and somebody's trying to prey on them, or they are talking to a friend and all of a sudden they get a message from some strange kid making fun of her. You know, those are things that I don't want for my kids. So education is going to be key for my oldest daughter, like I said, very soon. So my wife and I already decided, and it's based off of her culture, that our kids are not going to have their own social media accounts. Not until they are adults. They don't need them. If they need to talk to somebody, they can use mine or my wife's or both. Doesn't matter. And if, so that way, if, you know, they can use it for its original intention, which is a means of communication. And they don't have to worry about a lot of the negative side effects, the being dependent on it, being addicted to it, having to worry about someone preying on them or online bullying them or something crazy like that. So, but at any rate, those are the two steps that we're going to be taking. I urge you, if you are a fairly new parent and you're doing some of the same things that I'm talking about, you're keeping your kids away from social media, you're doing the right thing. And if you're not, if your kids are deeply involved with technology, then you should do something about that. You really should, because the negative side effects far outweigh the positives. I don't even think you know who your kids are yet. To be honest, you might know them online. That's not their real personality. So in conclusion, like I said before, I have uh, a deep appreciation of being raised outside, and that is something I'm teaching my kids: to enjoy life, to enjoy being outside, to enjoy interacting with other people. I know technology from its beginnings. Matter of fact, my job is in information technology, so I know more than most people when it comes to computers, networking, and social media, and all that stuff. So I'm also extremely grateful for my wife's Dominican culture and its influence on me as well as our kids, because I didn't really see the negative side effects for it until after I was married to her, until after I was experiencing life with her side of the family. And so now I enjoy watching my children ride on their bicycles or scooters while we're walking on a nearby path in the neighborhood. I also enjoy taking them to a park and watching them play. And now I can imagine, if I let them watch TV and play video games and stuff like that all the time, I would get so much more done. I mean, my house is a disaster right now. But then, if I let them do those things and I concentrated on keeping my house perfectly clean, I'm going to be missing out on them developing their own true personality, from interacting with other people, from playing, from experiencing life. And I call this a chaotic happiness. I love my chaotic happiness. I also do not want to get them addicted to something when they're only freaking 5 years old. I mean, there's too many things around in life to get you addicted to. They don't need to start on that trend at the ripe young age of 5. All right. So Their ability to create stories out of pictures that they draw makes me smile every time. The laughter at them being silly with each other, it just makes me laugh as well. These are some of the things that I signed up for when I became a father. So if you realize that your child is addicted to social media, I urge you to wean them off of it. Slowly limit their social media and online time to a point where it eventually gets to no more than an hour or two a week, like what we do. Go outside and educate them outside and enjoy life. Of course, if it's for educational reasons, if they have a class or something or some homework to do, then that's fine. I exclude those things. But you really should be using this extra time to go on walks with your kids on the nearby paths. Go to a nearby park and watch them play. Create hobbies for your kids that you both can enjoy. And soon, very soon, if you do those things, soon you're going to start seeing what I call a true personality come out of your kid. This is who they were meant to be, not what they were forced to be because they were addicted to some sort of technology like social media. And you could really work and build them up from that person. And eventually you'll get to a point where your kids are going to come up and give you hugs. They're going to say I love you, and they're, like I said, they're just going to turn into a real person, the person that they were meant to be when they were born. Everything that you hope that they would be, they're going to be. All right. So hopefully you do those things. Hopefully you keep your kids off of technology as much as possible outside of educational reasons. And you help us all bring about positive social change, because there's just far too much domestic violence going on these days. And from what I see, it's all related to social media. When I was growing up, gun laws and things like that was a lot easier. But I didn't have to worry about mass shootings. Now I can't turn on the TV without hearing at least one going on somewhere around in the country. So at any rate, if this video resonates with you, please click like and subscribe. And also, please keep a lookout for my podcast as I speak about this and several other subjects in a lot more detail than what I'm talking about now. Thank you so much. Please take care and have a peaceful day.